What's happening, guys? Professor Mike, Coach T, back here with another video. Today, of course, talking about the rear naked choke or the rear naked strangle, whichever you like to call it. Strangle is probably a more accepted term nowadays, as we are trying to cut the blood flow off from our opponent. We're not choking them and taking their air away. So let's call it a rear naked strangle. As you well know, this is the highest percentage finish in MMA, submission grappling. All right, very, very strong, dominant submission, which, if applied effectively, can put your opponent to sleep in under 10 seconds. Why is that such a good thing? Well, it works on anyone, regardless of size. Everyone's neck has the same kind of physical limitations, and if we're able to cut those carotid arteries off either side of our necks, then we will restrict the blood flow enough to put someone to sleep. Okay, it's not the same as applying an armbar on someone much larger than you, or even in a fight situation, because many people will fight through a broken arm and continue. If you're asleep, guess what? The fight's over. And also, there's no damage inflicted on our opponent. Okay, once it's applied and once our opponent is unconscious, we can then leave that, get to a dominant position, or actually take ourselves away from that situation. And there's very little damage done to our opponent. And we should always be searching for that, right? It's one of the things I love about jiu-jitsu the most. It can be deadly, it's also super gentle. Gentle art, after all. Okay, so let's talk about the mechanics of the rear naked strangle. We're coming a little bit closer to the screen for this, and I want you guys to see. All right, effectively, what are we doing? We're applying pressure on both sides of our opponent's neck here. Okay, and if we do that effectively enough, even if I did this with my knuckles, after a period of time, this will be enough for my opponent to tap. But of course, that's easy to defend, isn't it? He just brings his arm up and pulls my hand off. All right, so we have to get to a mechanical positional advantage, which makes it hard for my opponent to defend. How do I do that? Okay, I do that by looping my arm around my opponent's neck, creating almost a noose, a full circle around his neck. There's a misconception that we should be kind of just across the throat and then pulling back. That's going to apply pressure on the windpipe, but it's not going to get a tap from a seasoned competitor or someone high on drugs in a fight situation or whatever. We will need to get round all the way through to a position where we're cutting off the carotid on this side with the radius and this side with the bicep. So you have to be deep enough to get the crook of your wrist on your opponent's neck. All right, and the neck should circle round the shape of your hand there. All right, so all the way around into that position. I like to grab on the back of the head, which just gives me a little bit of an anchor there. And then, of course, to finish, once that's locked in place, we look to put our elbow above our opponent's shoulder. And that's enough to get the tap, okay? What we call the rotation method. Key thing to remember here. If my opponent can grab hold of the meaty part of my hand or thumb, you've lost the strangle forever. If I place this arm in front here and my opponent gets my hand, there's no way, even with an opponent weaker than me, that I can beat this. Okay, he has all the leverage here. I'm less concerned if you grab my forearm, and most people will go there, particularly those who are new to jiu-jitsu who don't understand the mechanics of the body, and grab the forearm. So if here he grabs the forearm, I'm still going to win the fight. Okay, even if he slides it down, okay, still going to crawl my hand up using the gi and get to the position I want. But if he grabs the thumb or the meat part of the hand, there's no way. So I can't show my opponent this part of my hand, okay? I have to snake it around the neck. It has to snake around to that position of control. It never should come past my opponent's chin. If it's here, he's going to defend it. All right? My opponent's chin's tucked. I will use the flat of my thumb, like a flat fist, to prise open the neck. And again, I then don't allow my arm to come down here, where it can be defended. It snakes all the way around, contours my opponent's neck to a position where I can get all the way around, and then we can apply that finish. All right. So there's the one arm rear naked strangle. Two arms, of course, is much stronger. The strangle arm doesn't change the position. It must loop round to the same depth, all right? But now I'll reinforce this arm with the help of my other arm. So I remove my control hand, and I will place my hand on top, hiding the position of weakness, or hiding the thumb first and foremost. Okay? Once I've done that, the cue I tell my students is to try and touch their opposite shoulders. Okay, so they try and touch their opposite shoulders. Why do I say that? Well, because in the past, people have focused on grabbing the bicep, and as soon as this arm comes out, guess what? It gets defended, and if my opponent can get my thumb again, I can't get that choke. I still may be able to finish one arm, but I want two arms. I want maximum control. So I say, right, touch your own shoulders. They touch their own shoulders. As far as they can go, you should be able to see my fingertips on this side, and this side should now be gripping the bicep. And you can crawl your hand through to ultimate control. When you've gone as far as you can, your left elbow, this elbow of the control arm, loops in front of my opponent's shoulder to lock his shoulders in place and apply my chest to his back. That is the choke set. It requires very little rotation to finish from there. Okay? Provided your choke is set well, you will finish every single time. But always do it with a technical mind, thinking, how does my opponent want to defend? And how can I stop them getting to the points of defence? Remember, the end of the lever is the danger for me. Okay, that's where my opponent wants to defend from. So one more time, before you escape, Coach T. Okay, now I want you to look at Coach T's face very carefully, right? For a good reason, okay? You'll notice when the choke is applied well that the colour of my opponent's face will change. He'll probably start to get some kind of protruding veins at the top of his skull. His eyes will be bloodshot. So we can test ourselves by getting good positions there. The choke's not applied yet, but I can just look and think, okay, the face is starting to change. It's not far off the strangle. Similarly with both hands, remember, fingertips to each shoulder, gets that position now, my opponent's face looks very different. Okay, if we don't want to use the rotation method, I can just take a big deep breath, and that's enough often to squeeze all the air out of the little gaps in between my arms and cinching on that neck. All right, but remember, in order to get to the choke, you must, or the strangle, you must do it in a technical way. You cannot show your opponent the end of your levers. You cannot show them your hands. If they can control your hands, there's no more strangles. Remember, the principle of the strangle is to control both sides of the neck to cut off the blood flow to the brain. So your grips need to be deep enough, and deep enough means all the way around the head to finish that. Of course, there are mandible strangles as well, where the tin's tucked in, but we could talk about this for a long, long time. But to give you a head start and give you a fantastic, strong submission to be part of your arsenal, that's pretty much all you need to know. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed it. See you all soon.